Hello, friends, and welcome to another State of the Dominations. I'm here to talk about the new update 5.3, and today I have a special guest with me, Domination Tips. How about you introduce yourself to all the people who don't know you yet?
Hey fellas, Domination Tips. I'm reporting right back for duty from Encore Alliance, more specific Bernie, one of the top players currently at this alliance, so a very skilled player, and we, like I promised you, we decided to make a conclusion video about all statistics and all informations about the new implemented facts, coalition troops and so on with the 5.3 update. Yeah, and here we are.
Fantastic. So we're trying the setup for the first time. Let us know if the microphones are okay, if you can hear us well. So 5.3 brought us a lot of changes and a lot of new updates, bigger and smaller. I would like to start with the smaller updates first and the balance changes, and then we can talk about the big things that are mainly about war. So balance changes. We have a few things that a lot of players ask for. One of them was that the demolition tactic is no longer effective for stealing oil. And I know that you Domination Tips, you were complaining about that a couple times. Are you happy with this new change?
Yeah, with this new change, I recognize that especially oil wells are now better protected because at mills and markets, nearly no one used the demolition tactic. But also a new thing which was really confusing to me is some players reported that the demolition tactic also deals 85% less damage on town centers, such as the Forbidden City, which I recognize that the Forbidden City is getting counted or measured in the game as a world wonder, and now it's also obviously in this case getting measured as town center and so on. The demolition tactic, which you are using very often or which very many players use in World War to get rid of nasty Forbidden City layouts, will not longer work. You will have to place about 5, probably even 6 full maxed out demolition tactics to get rid of the Forbidden Town Center. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good to know, and that they didn't mention that part. At least it wasn't as clear in the update notes. So that's a very good insight that you bring to us here. Another thing that a lot of players ask for is the trap blessing. And honestly, I don't use my traps in multiplayer as much. It's just like very expensive to keep them armed. But I'm sure it's a big difference for players who are willing to spend as much and have the traps often activated often.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the multiplayer, I have to pay around 270 up to 300,000 to rearm all of my traps only one time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you accumulate this up, we get around 900,000 of gold only for rearming my traps. So I will definitely lose this amount of resources only by rearming. And I think the re-implementation of the trap blessing is now, especially for active multiplayer players, which are trying to get some their walls or other things, very helpful.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it's obviously nice to have your base better protected if you can afford it and don't have to pay the same amount 3 times, but only once. But it also means that more defending bases will have their trap set, which will make raiding a bit harder.
I could not recognize especially this because you are completely right about your fact, but it is quite no difference for active players to pay these 300,000 of golds or decide or differentiate between inactive bases, which have in total no traps or all traps triggered, and active bases, which have all of their traps ready to engage when you are attacking this base. So I only think more active bases will have their traps armed, but in total I don't think that there will be any recognizable difference, because I also don't care about getting 300,000 for my traps or having one blessing active.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, it will be the result that all of my traps are ready for war.
Yes, so definitely. Fantastic. Okay, and a few more things that were minor changes that I want to mention is that we have upgrades to SAM batteries, caltrops, and spike traps. Yeah, so especially the spike traps give you a big boost and just gives you more defensive power in World War, which the game is really needing. Um, Okay, another thing that I really like is the stalemates in war when when both teams get 5-star every base. Previously, it was they only had 40% of war loot um, given to either side. That now changed to 100%, and I think that's a very good change. It's just you put a lot of effort into flattening these bases, and then you don't even get your money back, which is really disappointing. A stalemate is already disappointing, but then not even getting your investment back is even worse. So, what do you think?
Yeah, just to agree at this point. No more mentions about this. I think Nexon or Big Huge Games was a little bit threatened before on former times that alliances would communicate to each other, searching wars for enemy alliances, which both alliances are aiming for 100%, and so getting stalemates on purpose to both get the war loot. And I think therefore they reduced it to 40%. But in total, after integrating the glory as a measuring factor for success in world wars, I don't think that this is just quite a problem anymore. And so the 100% war loot rewards will be just some increasement, I think.
Right, and I mean, it is possible that alliances start to do that to get the war loot, but I don't think, I mean, it's war loot is even 100% is not that much, and it still takes you still need all of your you still need your troops to 5-star base, so you still have some expenses, and you lose like 2 days. You need to organize it. You need to make sure you actually match. I think it's still a lot of effort to for
Sure.
not so much reward. But yeah, if it becomes a thing, then yeah, that should probably be reinvestigated. Another thing that's like a small change, but I already felt that it's a much nicer improvement is that the planning day is shortened to 23 hours. Wait, like the kept getting later and later in the day, and at some point it's at night, and then you miss a day where you can't war, or you just have to stay up very late. So this 23-hour change doesn't guarantee that the war does not get started later if search time are longer than that, are longer than an hour. But certainly it's a good step in the right direction. And I already felt it in this 2 wars that we had since the release. So what I would want to ask of your opinion about is what people were very excited about, and I think that will affect every player in the game, is that we now get a second armory slot.
We had some questions about it, and many players asked me whether the unlock of the second slot would be forever or whether it would be only a temporary unlock. And I definitely proved it, and some more players also proved it and commented below my videos that if you get or if you pay or purchase 1,000 crowns for the second slot, you will definitely get it forever. And so it's definitely very helpful, because I think Armory is the kind of building in game in which you can spend most of the time without progressing to the end, because especially generals, tactics, coalitions, factory troops, air troops, and also the ground infantry troops from the barracks, from the garrisons, no barracks, you have to spend very, very much time in it. And so getting a second slot is very nice, because then you can do simultaneously some researches on your planes or even later on your generals. And so the generals will not fall on the edge like before, so that many players have only very low level generals and only the maxed guys have strong generals. I think now everyone has the opportunity to split his focus a little bit up for more than one target in research.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's two main advantages that I see. One is when you get to a new age, and you want to. That's always like a hard time, because you have weaker troops, and it takes a long time to actually get all of the troops that you need in your multiplayer or war attacks to get to the new level. And in that time, you're obviously completely blocked for anything else, for coalitions or for tactics. So it takes like several months, like in Global Age, to get to your offenses up. Which means that, well, yeah, as you said, like generals are really hard to level, because you just don't have the time for it. And in general, I think if a game decides that they have this feature of the generals, and people would like to level them but just can't, I think that's not a good design. So I'm really pleasantly surprised that we now have the second armory slot. You're looking forward. You're just transitioning to Global Age. You're looking forward to the second armory slot there.
Yeah, especially I have unlocked it, and so on the global age I will directly or instantly start upgrading my offensive troops with 2 slots, so we'll doubled amount of research speed. But later on, I think I will also focus, and I also thought about giving only 1 slot to my offense, and then also focusing for the planes, because most obviously the fighter planes in the global age and the force fighter plane making the big difference between industrial and global age attackers.
Yeah, definitely a fourth plane will help a lot. What do you think? I would like to have your opinion on the price. It's 1,000 crowns once. Is that more than you expected? Is that less than you expected? What do you think?
I think if we take a portrait or if we look at this in total, we get a very huge increase for all ages, and because it's an forever unlock, especially for active players which are focusing or intending to play Dominations for more than only 2 weeks, it's definitely worth to spend. And if we are comparing to other purchasing contents like the estate, which cost about 53 euro in Germany, which is very much in my opinion, I think these 1,000 crowns are definitely affordable, especially when we are mentioning the fact that we have now the in-game opportunity to watch some videos on daily base to get about around 12 to 16 crowns every day. And if you are just accumulating up, just do some all-time challenges like get to a new higher league, or even watch these videos for a little bit longer time, and then you will very easily get to the 1,000 crowns even without spending any money at all.
I was surprised that it's just 1,000 crowns, and I was surprised that it's
Yeah,
just crowns. I know that other games have similar features, and you need to unlock it with the real money. I
exactly.
very much prefer if it was just crowns. Then people can still, even if it's a lot of crowns, like make it 10,000 crowns, say. Then people can still buy it. But other players who just haven't spent crowns on other things can just do that instead, or just buy the crowns that they need to finish it. So I'm very surprised it's only 1,000. I was expecting more like 5,000 to be honest. But I'll take it. So don't tell Nexon, but I think this was a pretty good deal. And also on top of it being like nice for us, I think it's generally a very good move by Nexon to make it easier to progress to later ages. It already takes a very long time, and we'll come back to that when we talk about the uni leader. But I think this is a problem for the game, that it's very hard for players to catch up. If you can make that faster, that's certainly a good thing for the game overall. I know that you Domination Tips looked a little bit more closely at the statistics and at the coalition in general. What's your take, or what's your introduction about the coalition changes?
So if we are talking about the coalitions, there are 2 general major changings, I think. First are the not improved, but changed statistics about the coalitions, which makes it in total more affordable or more interesting for high-level players to invest in upgrading their coalitions. Then we also have the second fact, which is about the new troops, the new defensive as well as offensive troops we are getting access to by activating a coalition for the World War. And if we are not talking about offense first, because these are the only troops you can use actively and which are not getting passively added to your base, then we can see that nearly all of the troops are pretty uninteresting. We have low values at health, as well as no low values at the attack, the DPS, the damage per second. And so in total, my recommendation would be to use these reinforcements only to clean up a base in the end. I think none of these troops you are getting is that strong that it could compare with your ordinary troops. Let's only take, for example, the Mongol from the Mongols. It has the same range, yeah, and the same kind of working principle or structure like an artillery or an howitzer, but even at the upgraded stages, the statistics are so low that you even cannot use it. It's probably more a bombard or even a weak cannon in comparison to an howitzer or to your ordinary troops. And so I would definitely recommend using these offense troops you are getting by offense coalitions for cleaning the base up in the end. Here you see 658 hit points at a high level stage, I think stage 6.
So
Yeah,
these
and
are
even the
the
max level,
differences.
level 6, is that weak that it can in total not compare to industrial troops at all. And I think many players, or especially the high engaged players, are at global age or higher, and then the reinforcements they are getting by the coalitions are even stronger, weaker than their own troops. So clean up the base with these troops and don't rely on them in the total attack. They are a nice reinforcement, but in total not that usable, I think. these statistics are increasing, so definitely don't rely on the statistics which are shown to your current coalitions. You can improve them, but in total, the most improvements are not that much that you should be happy with it in the end.
I mean, the improvement, I mean, it does get more than twice as good, which is like a nice boost in overall. But as you said, you probably don't want to level the coalition just to get this troop better. The other effect still is even stronger, as you also pointed out, that now instead of having increases by only 2 or 3%, you now actually get increases like of 5% each level. So that's a huge boost. I mean, 10% is usually more than what you get in a new age. If you can boost that up to 30%, that's like almost attacking 3 ages.
We were at the specific troops of the coalitions.
Yes,
Let's stay at the defensive troops first, because there is another interesting thing, I think. At the defensive forces, we have the Indians. And so if we are talking about the Indians, there, for example, we have one troop which could be, or which could get interesting because of the Urumi. Like you probably have noticed, they have splash damage, and very many players are used to place all of their troops with 2 or even 3 point contact strategy or whatever at very, very short or cumulative places next to another, so that all of your troops in the beginning of the game to get them as fast as possible deployed at very close ranges. And the forest defenders, so also probably the Urumi as defense coalitions defenders, will spawn probably sometimes very close to your troops and dealing splash damage with not a bad DPS at your ranged infantry could cost you some of them, if not even all, and you have definitely to pay attention for enemies which have high-level Indian coalitions in World War in future, I think.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So if you drop your troops very close to each other, as you normally do, and the Urumi spawn very close, then you could be in trouble. It would be nice to see that in action. Well, I wouldn't want to be the person who gets who gets the punishment, but I would like to see someone else upload a video for that. And if it has to be me, then that's what it has to be.
We have also some other cool troops, such as the Russian tanks. Initially, I complained about the Russian tanks because of their very, very poor values. I think over here we have some level 1 values for the tanks, and if you are getting to level 5 or level 6, the Russian tanks, there we have. You see the Russian tanks are even getting a multiplied basic value, but nevertheless that the hit points increased by the 5th amount, and also the damage nearly increased by the 3rd amount of the initial basic value. The T-35 tanks get at the highest stage nearly equal to low level industrial age tanks, so definitely not that strong that you would have to fear them. But what is getting very special about them is their favorite targets, and so we see ranged siege troops such as artillery howitzers and especially field howitzers, which means they are explicitly focusing on them. So if you're dropping your troops and there are some 15,000 hit points defenders probably with 500 damage per second, which are only focusing for your ranged siege troops, it costs you couples of some of them in the early game, and so you will be decreased by 2 or even 3 howitzers before the attack itself already begun.
Yeah, that could definitely be a big factor. And again, it depends on where you spawn your troops, in which order you spawn them, and how far away the forest defenders are, or these additional troop defenders are. If you have enough time, maybe your shooters or your bazookas or your planes can take out the tanks before they actually reach your artillery. Otherwise, you may lose a lot of steam early on.
Yeah, so I think we can quite properly talk about that the Russian coalition was previously, or in former times, really unattractive, and now with the patch it got to one of the most attractive defense coalitions, I think. Not only because of the forest defenders, the T-34 tanks, but even more for the new values we got. Initially, they only boosted our air defenses and gave us some very weak additional forest defenders, but now we have also an increase for the hit points of our depots, bunkers and garrisons, and if you level it to level 6 you will get plus 110% total increase of hit points, which makes your very important defense buildings such as garrisons, tank depots and bunkers way more durable than they are or than they were initially.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good point. I mean, if you can get even 1 or 2 more waves out of tanks to defend, then that could make a big difference. And also, I'm interested if you have a larger number of hit points, then that probably also affects your ability to get the 50% quick victory. So you would need to get to those buildings sooner, and you can just destroy the mills and then worry about the actual defenders later. You need to get to the heart of the base sooner for the Egyptians.
I don't think that the Egyptians are that strong. We have archers which are moving with some horses, so they are probably way faster, probably like our healing cards, so very fast troops which are moving, but in total the hit points and the damage per second are not that dramatically that you should have to fear them, also because they are favorizing no targets, so attacking for anything, and many players are dropping their generals or even mercenaries or whatever first, and so they will aim for them. So I don't think that the archers will play that a big role. The only thing you have to pay attention for is the forerange. So if you are playing, for example, with less ranged infantry troops, you should aim for getting away of the chariot archers before they can take too many troops from you out of the distance.
True. They get extra bonus against soldiers, so if you are using a lot of those, they could make quick work of that. But I don't think it's too common to rely on soldiers. They would also be heavily outranged, so they pretty much prevent attacks from people who are heavy on soldiers and foot troops. Okay, so that's for the defensive coalitions. Again, Russians could be really strong. Indians could be really strong if you catch a lot of defenders on the same spot. And then for the other two, we're not so sure how well they will defend.
There is another point I want also to mention about the coalitions. When we are now looking to the World War, in previous times it was not able to activate any more additional coalitions during the World War, so warring day itself, only at the planning day, and now they implemented the feature that even if you have forgot or if you have recognized that enemies have too strong coalitions, you can pay, I think, some additional national trade goods to activate even some of your coalitions later on in the war day, probably so to react to enemy actions. But this makes the game also even more unpredictable, because you cannot rely on what the enemies have for coalitions at the early warring day. You have to check it every time, because probably the enemy has during the warring days some coalitions active which he had initially not. And there's also another thing which I cannot show you currently, but you will see if you are going to the war map itself, ordinary or in earlier times, before the update, you could just easily click on enemy bases and see directly next to their name, left side of their name, I think defense coalitions, right side of the name, some offense coalitions, and so you could in total very easily and very fast check whether and which coalitions were active. You currently cannot do this anymore because they are not getting showed. You can only see them by explicitly scouting the base, seeing at the embassy which flags are waving, or getting to the attack log or defense log or statistics of the World War and see when an enemy attacked. There you can see the displayed coalitions which he had active.
For this one, I'm not sure if that's really intentional or if they will bring it back, or if it's just hidden behind something else that they didn't realize it was actually hiding. I don't see a reason why you would hide that information. It's a bit. I mean, certainly on War Day you shouldn't hide it anymore. If you want to hide it on Planning Day, maybe. But yeah, go ahead.
If we are only seeing the result and not trying to analyze or understand any purpose behind, if we just only see the result, we see that skilled players or experienced players, which are not relying on the first impressions they are getting by enemies, are getting supported by this. So I think in total it's making the game a little bit deeper, and so I'm not quite sure whether it was on purpose or whether not. But I can only tell you if you pay a little bit more of effort and before you attack, a little bit more of planning, you can definitely compensate it, but it will definitely make a striking under difference between skilled players and unskilled players, which are only relying on what they are seeing at enemy bases at the first impression.
Sure, yeah. However, it makes things a little bit less convenient. So you have to do a little bit more on your own to see some things that are not really hidden but require now more effort to actually take them. Cool. So what I would now like to go to is talk about the stronghold, and I think this is the more controversial topic on this update. It brings several aspects. So let's talk about the defensive mortar aspect first. I have the stronghold. I have a screenshot of the max stronghold here. So what do you think of this?
First, we can see we have some kind of area splash damage, so we don't have to take huge concern about the damage per second itself, because it's definitely not that high. But because we have splash damage, we are talking about a fifth mortar over here. If we compare it to an ordinary mortar, we see quite that the range is a little bit more decreased than an ordinary mortar, so probably some kind of baby mortar. Then we have also some decreased damage, but we have very highly increased hit points, so it's way more durable, more like a fort or like a castle than even like an ordinary mortar with approximately 4,000 hit points. So adding a fifth mortar to your base can be very strategically, especially because this mortar in World War will not only shoot, it will also spawn some troops, and it's getting very dangerous to your troops, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you said the range is a little bit shorter than a full mortar would have. The damage is about the same. Hit points are much more, so that's something to keep in mind. So I think it's a nice change that we have another defensive building, and then of the strongest type. So I think it adds a little bit. It adds to the balance that's needed, that we have a bit stronger defense.
If we are at the stronghold also, let's mention the fact that in World War, the stronghold is getting used to not only donate ordinary troops, but then we have the opportunity to also donate some event troops or purchase troops. And I don't like this aspect because, like some other YouTubers already mentioned, a pay-to-advance aspect is quite okay, but not a pay-to-win aspect, which takes a lot of fun or enjoyment of a game. And so if you can just all of the time donate some field howitzers, strong other troops which are very useful for the defense, only because you are purchasing, because otherwise you are obviously not getting these troops. You probably, like you see, you can donate 4 event armies or troop capacities, troop tactics at one stronghold. And if you are now only mentioning or remembering a small World War of about 20 participants, we have in total 80 places to be filled if you want to fill them with troop tactics, and nobody can do that for more than one time without purchasing, because from the dock you are only getting, or from the shipyard, 1 additional troop tactics, from an event probably 1 more. In total I think this is way too much focusing on the pay to win aspect, and I don't like this aspect about the defense in World War.
Yeah, I totally agree. So there are many things that come with this, right? So first of all, players asked that we shouldn't have just be able to throw as many cards as we needed really to 5-star a base, or to clean up a base, or if we like made some mistakes, we still get the 5-star because we can just throw a few more cards at it. And I don't really see how limiting it to 4 is helping that much. I mean, with 4 cards, you can still do a lot more than you should be able to. And there are really strong cards in the game, which pretty much 4 cards can double your army size. So there's no way of balancing that ever. So that's already a problem. I would have much rather seen 1 or 2 as the max limit. On offense, that is. And now on defense, yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, really bad change to bring those pay to win aspects on defense. And I also honestly don't know how this should work. I mean, you just mentioned that even on a very small war for 20 players, you have 80 slots to fill. So if you say how much is a card? Like how much are these troops? Like if you're very lucky, you pay at least $1 for one. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's even more. But even if you're conservative and say you pay $1 per card, it's still that's still $80 that have to come from somewhere for each war. So if you don't fill all the bases, it's still if you say you fill half the bases, the top 10 bases, it's still $40. And even if you have people who spend that initially, I don't see that sustainable at all, because I mean you don't know how effective they are, right? I mean you put them in the base and then you never hear them again, right? I mean you don't have any replay. You don't know if they failed because of these troops. Would they failed anyway? Or it gets 5-star and maybe the stronghold was sabotaged or it was outranged or whatever. You just don't know. So I don't see people spending money on something that they have no idea had any effect or not.
Yeah, it's very, very intransparent.
So I mean, I hope that they bring World War replays in at some point. That could help with that, but otherwise I don't really see how that's supposed to fly. You just put them there and hope for the best. I mean, normal alliances can do that once or twice for big wars, and then you have big spenders on the top, and that's it. So I don't see. Yeah, I think it's a very, very negative effect on the game. It could be. I mean, it could be a deal breaker for some people. I think this is probably the worst change that they brought for since a very long time. Any other thoughts on this?
No, and no more thoughts, I think.
Okay, I think I haven't talked to anyone who says that defensive cards are a good thing. We have the dock now, and that's here to stay. So I think if you implement a feature into the game, it doesn't make sense if it's never used. So I do like that you say, okay, you can spend your time either on improving your defenses or you use your citizen to get more offensive troops, and then people can decide. And I think that's fine. But even with all the changes that they had, we have the atomic wonder that reduces time by 20%. And we have the university, no, not the university, the library research that reduces time and cost and worker cost. And still, like, it's way too much. It's like way too long. How long would you think would be a good time to get one of those cards that you could use in war?
I don't know. I'm not happy with investing that much time on this aspect in total.
So would you say, like, if you say you can get a card each day for like 4 workers, is that where your threshold will be, or?
Initially, when the shipyard was implemented, I was very happy about, but in total, I have to admit that I have not used it at all, the shipyard, because all of these 4 citizens, probably 5 citizens, was way too valuable for me to waste them at the shipyard. I better thought and wanted to invest them in some more progress of my whole base.
Yeah. So I think overall there is some potential in this but you have to reduce the cost to get those troops from the shipyard. Like the worker cost and the time just has to be reduced dramatically.
Yeah.
And then I mean, sure, if people want to top those up with money, that's fine. I mean people have to, like, Nexon has to make some money too, and that's not a bad thing. But if the discrepancy is so large that only big spenders can actually use that feature, and it's a super strong feature, then we are in a big trouble with this game. However, to end on a positive note, I would love to show you the new Mansa Musa, the new leader.
I can give you the important facts about, because
Yes,
I have simultaneously running my dominations. So at Mansa Musa we have quite the equivalent, the gold equivalent of our Chief Hirowacha researches. And if you can remember Chief Hirowacha, we had some striking points about him. So first point was that all of his researches was shortened by the half. So he has not 100 researches in total, but only 50. Same it's at Mansa Musa. And also all of these researches are very, very short. So I think you can do the whole Mansa Musa researches. If you are continuously researching over him, you can do them in two, probably 3 weeks in total. And they give you great advantage on all of your further or in future researches for the gold researches in the university. We have also some at the way to the capstone, which is reducing our total amount of citizens we have to use at gold researches by 1. We have also some stages of researches on the way, which are pretty interesting. For all guys which are playing motorcycle riders, we get first in the initial stage of the university some more additional motorcycle radar damage, and we get 5 times 6%. So in total also very easy to acquire or to get 30% more damage of our motorcycle radar. And then we get a little bit less interesting, the gold skill research costs, which are getting decreased 5 times by 3%, so 15%. But it's not about the costs, which are paying to us. It's about the time and the amount of citizens. At stage 2, we are getting some more gold bonus for our victories in multiplayer. Yeah, if we go on, we see also some market upgrade cost reduction and also some caravan upgrade cost reduction, and I don't think that they are striking at all. But we also get some gold research time shortening, so we can shorten the time of our gold researches 5 times by 3%, and that is one of the aspects which is getting interesting, because then you can also, like at the food researches, spend less time in the university to get the important researches such as your mortar upgrades, tower upgrades, and all of the other defense upgrades in the university. Then we have again a second chapter for the costs, for the gold costs of researches, which are pretty uninteresting, but also we are getting the healing card healing amount, and that's pretty striking, especially for most of the players, and I think these are most of the players which are playing with healing cards. We get 5 times additional 6%, which this means in total an additional 30% healing of our healing card, which is nearly 1/3 or yeah, 1/3 of the total amount. And if I'm looking at my industrial low-level healing cards, they are healing 45 per second, and it's getting increased by 50 nearly, probably approximately 14 or 15. So in total, it's a very huge increase in the healing amount of our healing cards. Which can be striking, especially to World War attacks when you're using more than ordinary of the healing cards. At the last stages, we are only getting more road income from our streets, which is pretty uninteresting for all active players. But again, we get a second chapter with 5 times 3% of the gold research time, so we can another time shorten down to a total amount of 30% reduction of the resource of the gold research time, and then we are already at the capstone, which is reducing our total amount of citizens needed.
Yeah, fantastic. I think I have the same opinions here. Lots of those things are not so interesting, but I mean the research time is really really great, and the supply card healing was something unexpected, but certainly very nice to improve that. I think almost every army, unless you're using heavy tanks, you probably have supply cards in there somewhere. So, and certainly for multiplayer, you don't go in without supply cards. So it makes multiplayer a bit easier, which I think is a good improvement. But yeah, the main part is obviously the reduction of research time and reduction of number of citizens required. So overall, I'm very, very happy with this leader. I think this is exactly the right direction the next one should, or Big Huge Game should move into, making it easier for players to catch up and get to relevant and fun content faster.
Yeah, we have another trivial aspect, or even 2 trivial aspects. If we are going to our university, we see a quite new order of our leaders. So all leaders which we have finished already are getting sorted right to the right side of your university, so that you don't have to care anymore about them. So you can have the left side see only all of your leaders which you quite have to go. And we can also see a quite new leader which was implemented, and where we get some kind of overview for the future. We see some girl staying in front of a plane, and I'm pretty sure it's Emilia Earhart, so some pioneer of the aircrafts, and I'm really looking forward to see which researches or which benefits she will bring to us.
Yeah, I mean everyone's excited if aircraft gets more powerful. I think that's great, in particular because we have a slight nerf of the aircrafts in this update for players with the Versailles, which always said that it only boosts the health of your ground troops, but it apparently also applied to aircrafts. So this is gone now, so everyone's planes are 10% weaker now, and maybe this new leader can make up for that.
Yeah, in total, you are completely right, especially because we have no boost of our aircrafts or air defense currently in the university. So I think Emilia Earhart will probably introduce a new chapter only about air defense and air units itself.
Yeah, it makes total sense, and it also is a very nice leader actually to have. I think would be a very nice addition if that will actually happen that way. So the overall, what do you think about, considering all those things, what are your thoughts about this upgrade?
I think in total this upgrade was really worth to do, especially because of the armory slot and some balance changings with the dynamite, which is making the World War way more interesting. But also the intransparent updates like the stronghold with getting focus to pay to win aspect, and also the hidden coalitions, which you cannot see anymore at the first view or at the first impression, are making the game more intransparent, and so also very much harder for unexperienced players or players which are only casual gamers, not like us. And yeah, in total, I'm a little bit teared apart. So I can only say for myself, it's a little bit more positive than negative, but I can also really understand players which are saying the update brought more negative aspects than positive for them.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely, I mean, I agree on that as well. We agree on a lot of things, it turns out. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of really good stuff in there, like really good improvements, where I see that Big Huge Games moves into the right direction of where I think the game should go, which is good for the game, which is more fun for the players, which is good to like help with attrition and bring new players in and reduce the long waiting game a little bit. So this is obviously very good, and everything would be fantastic if it wasn't for this defensive stronghold, which I think is really the most. Yeah, I mean, we don't know how it will exactly play out. I don't think you can see if it's even loaded. You just have to either sabotage and hope you caught something, or you just don't and hope nothing is in there. I think that's really way too much swing in that one aspect. will people actually spend that much money even at the top to keep it constantly there, or is it just a thing that people can't really afford and you only put it in the top 1, 2, 3 bases or whatever? But again, it adds a lot of uncertainty and adds a lot of randomness, which I think is like way over the top than what you needed. So yeah, I would like to say this is the best upgrade ever, but it could well be a deal breaker for a lot of people. So we will have to see how it actually plays out in the game. Okay, any parting words for this experiment with 2 commentators?
Thank you for this commentary. It was, it was really, really cool for me to see and really interesting to hear also some additional meanings towards my own ones. And yeah, I think in future we can do this even more times, especially if the viewers are interested in seeing more than only one view at a specific new update or some implemented fact.
Yeah, I would be up for that. So yeah, let us know if the quality of the sound and all of that works out, and if you find this format interesting. Keep on playing, keep on having fun with the game, and check out Domination Tips if you're watching from my channel, and check out Bernie's Journey Domination if you're watching from his channel.
See you soon, guys.
See you soon. Bye bye.